Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I want to introduce to you my close personal friend and business partner, Jaden Zubal. Jaden, say hi to everybody.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Gary. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So I'm going to have Jaden describe, how some himself and his family and what he does at Paradigm Life. But we are two peas in the pod here. We're both real estate investors. We both are very passionate about what we do and are very like-minded. And actually, we both started working in this industry in 2014. As you know from my story, I started doing infinite banking in my own life in 2011 while I was still in the Navy, still on nuclear submarines. And I started doing this as an advisor to help other individuals in 2014. And Jaden also joined a group called Paradigm Life. You've met Patrick Donahoe, the CEO of Paradigm Life, in several of these course opening videos. And so Jaden joined Patrick's team and he came on board with me in about 2016. And we've been working together ever since. And as I said, we are very much alike, very like-minded. Jaden's a little older than me, but other than that, we're pretty similar. Jaden, if you don't mind, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. So, as Gary said, I started with Paradigm Life in 2014, and like many of the wealth strategists in our company, or in what Gary and I do, I started as a client. Was a client first. Learned how to use this strategy myself. Got deeply involved with it, and it just became a hobby and a passion of mine. So from there, by 2016, I started working with clients on a daily basis. And since that point, it's just expanded further and further. At the stage that I'm in now, I currently have 8 policies between myself, my wife, and our kids. And we use that actively to invest in real estate. Consistent growth of the policies, pulling money out of the policies, or I should say against the policies, which we'll probably talk more about, to buy real estate. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years or so, and certainly plan to continue doing that for a long time to come.
So you'll see Jaden, if you're able to join us at a live event, one of the Think Realty Expos, you'll see Jaden there, and he will really enjoy working with you and talking with you there. And then if you ever find value or want to have a personal session with us to kind of go over your situation and so that we can make some recommendations, you likely will, at least in one of those meetings, meet with Jaden as we work together so that you get a 2-for-1 deal on advisors helping you figure out how to grow wealth permanently. And as I said, we are passionate about the same things. So that's it. And I hope you enjoy this upcoming video with the two of us talking together. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. And I have with me again, Jaden, my business partner. We're going to talk about probably the topic that he and I are both most passionate about with respect to what we do every day, helping clients at Paradigm Life. And we kind of have different words for it, but I think after this video, you will agree that it is really the same thing. We're after the same goals. So I talk about this as agency. And agency is a word that's not used often enough in America today. It's a word that was used much more frequently in the past. And I'm trying to bring it back because agency, to me, defines what everyone out there needs in America or in any free society to keep it free and for people to actually thrive and prosper. And so agency is the capacity of individuals to make their own free choices, to be financially set up so that they can make their own decisions and live the life that they want to live. And Jaden talks about it a little bit differently as control, and I won't put words in your mouth. Both of these are pushing towards freedom. And so our topic today is about how do you what's important to have control over, and then how do you set up your life to be able to achieve that? Jaden, your thoughts?
Absolutely, Gary. Just to expand a little bit on what you said so far. When you talk about agency, and I, like you said, I do consider it as control. I talk about it as financial control with my clients, and when I'm in having kind of that one-on-one conversation with somebody. And I would almost think of it as just taking agency and zooming in a little bit, right? And I'm just saying, we've got this freedom that's what America was founded on. That's what we're here for, is to have this freedom to control our businesses, control our financial situations, control all of our lives, right? That's America. And when it comes to financial freedom, I think of it as financial control. How much control do I have over my finances? How much control do I have over where my money's going, where I'm putting it, how often I can take it out, what I'm doing with it? And real estate is one of those really cool tools that gives us a lot of control and a lot of freedom. It combines those things and just enhances that overall agency.
Absolutely. Great point. So one of the unique things about 2019 and 2020 and 2021, and there's been a lot of unique and painful things associated with, the lockdowns associated with COVID. One of those, though, is that the businesses had to give people a ton of freedom with their schedule, right? And then they started trying to pull people back, and a lot of people just stopped working. They left their employment because they were no longer willing to miss those soccer games that they got used to going to see, right? And so they got a taste of freedom and agency, and they weren't willing to give that up. I found that to be fascinating, and see how that, and it's also fascinating to see how companies are pivoting to allow, to be able to keep hold of this person that they value greatly, but yet do it in a way in which it also serves the freedom of time and control of time that the individuals are definitely looking for. So one of the biggest ones, I would say, when it comes to agency and when it comes to having control and freedom is of your time, right? It's the only non-renewable resource out there. It's the only scarce resource out there. Time, right? Can't get it back. Like if you lose all your money, go ask Donald Trump. You can get it back if you have the expertise, the knowledge, and the fortitude to go do it again, right? And there's many other things that you can get back. You cannot get back time. And so people see that and they experience that when the boss says, you got to come in on Saturday, or, my boss used to say, you got to take your submarine to sea. And it doesn't matter that I had a big event planned, right? It's important. It was, and I went proudly because I knew we were doing something important, but it's not always the case, right? It could just be, the movie Office or Office Space. I always forget which is the movie and which is the show. But when, the boss said, hey, I'm going to need you to come in on Saturday, right? So it's just an example of like, if you don't have control over your finances, you don't have that freedom. And so the big one probably, or the most common one, is freedom over the way in which you make your money, W-2, 1099, and those can be some simple changes.
I agree 100%. And, when I think of like freedom of time, and again, expanding on that and taking it even a step deeper, it's like you said, 1099 W-2, what is the way that you make your income? And when you make that income, who are you responsible to for that, right? I had this question posed once of, am I looking for the next promotion, or am I looking for something that gives me that sense of accomplishment, that sense of I've done something that I'm proud to do today, right? Like you said, with your experience in the Navy, you'd have to go out on that submarine, and while yes, you had to report to somebody to do that, and they would say, what, sorry, you got to go right now, you were still proud to do that. Right. That is something you enjoyed doing, and you were proud to be in that moment. You've since, changed your pathway a little bit, but that's because, again, you followed what allowed you to use your time most effectively and create value for other people. Right. And it's that same idea. If you're stuck in a job or in a position that you're doing just because you want the money and you're looking for that next promotion, that next thing, you may never find that freedom that you're looking for in that sense. And so it really is, whether it's 1099 W-2, whatever that looks like for you, it's about finding what you feel like adds value to the world in the way that you can add that value.
Yeah, very good. Very well put. And some people are like looking for that next challenge of promotion because it actually does get to what they want, which is maybe CEO of the company, right? Or something like that. So as long as it's not just the only way I can get money and I feel stuck, right? Because I don't have financial literacy, which you mentioned to me, and I want you to pick up on this in a moment. You mentioned like it really all starts with financial literacy, and that freedom starts with financial literacy. I mean, that should be a tweet from somebody, like that's important. And so some people really do want that. Like for a long time, I wanted to command a nuclear submarine, and I had to do these things to get there. And it was, I had a positive attitude to do it because it was important to me to go do that. What we're really talking about is it's a lot different to do extra things and miss birthday parties and things like that if it is towards a larger goal. But if it's because you don't have the financial and experience or the financial expertise to set up your life in a way in which it's not required anymore, right? So doing it under your own desire is a whole lot different than being forced to do something. Because when we're forced to do something, life sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. Right. And financial literacy is the key to opening that gate. Whatever, like you said, I agree that whether you are looking for the next promotion or not, if that's what you value and that's what's bringing you happiness and joy, certainly go for that. On the financial literacy side of things, that's almost like the concept of the keeping up with the Joneses, right? It's this idea that there's this terminology called lifestyle creep, where it doesn't really matter if you make 50,000 a year or 500,000 a year. If you still spend every penny that you make, what's really the difference, right? You're not adding the value for yourself to create that time freedom, so that bring the control back into your life if you're still just going through all the money. And this isn't always pertinent for everybody, but it is for a lot of people. When you look at like social media today, for example, right? The reason, I've heard it said that social media influences so much of what we do in today's world, because we get on, we start scrolling, it's used as this thing to fill our time when we're bored, right? So again, it's another thing that controls our time. But not only does it control our time, without us realizing it, it often controls our money, because you see, your neighbor down the street just bought a new sports car. Now you've got to go buy a new sports car because you feel that pressure, right? And so there's so much to it when it comes to controlling your time and where you put that time so that you can control your money and therefore have agency.
Yeah. And the big issue with getting those, going up the corporate ladder and getting the higher pay and achieving those goals and chasing those targets is that with higher positions comes more responsibility, more time, more headaches, and you end up having less time for financial education and less time for growing your own business in the background, right? So the final thing I think I would say about financial literacy and the importance of it is that you cannot get ahead if you don't know how to control the taxes, right? So, having enough time, keeping the money, you got to keep the money, but a large portion of keeping the money is not giving it up in taxes. And so the government wants you to do things. They incentivize you to do things in 7,000 plus pages in the IRS tax code. And a lot of those are set up to promote small business or large business, because business owners employ individuals, which takes a problem away from the US government because somebody else is helping feed that person and their family, right? Provide for them. And so they want you to be a business owner. They want you to provide workforce housing and be a real estate investor. And so as we get into the courses talking about, tax advantages and the different ways in which you can invest in this concept we call hierarchy of wealth, keep in mind that a lot of that is driven by taxes and how do we control our taxes. So the way that I describe agency and having control is that you want to set up your life. And I believe the only way to preserve freedom in America and around the globe is if you can prevent what I call financial blackmail. Like no one can have the ability to blackmail you financially if you want to be free. And if we want to have a society that's free, we have to set up all these individual nuclear family units and businesses where they're not susceptible to what I call financial blackmail. Now, you might say financial blackmail, all blackmail is financial. Not really, but that may be the way in which you pay the blackmail fee, right? But what I'm talking about is most of what I would say people think of as blackmail is social blackmail, meaning you did something, you don't want anybody to know, and now they've got you over a barrel and they can get you to do something so they don't tell, right? But what I'm talking about is they can get you to do things because they can withhold the money necessary for you to take care of your family and other commitments that you've made, right? I'm going to send my kids to college, which means I need to work extra hours because I don't have enough saved, whatever it is, right? So if no one has the ability to say, I won't pay you if you don't, right? Then you have freedom and you have agency, right? I stand very proudly as an example to what agency can do for you. In the early 2020, my family and I lived in New Jersey, and our governor up there in the middle of all the lockdowns said like 3 times, if you don't like the way I'm handling this, he was specifically talking about the way in which he mishandled some nursing home attendances, but he said, if you don't like the way I'm handling this, you can move. And I think he said that knowing that he had financial blackmail on most of his taxpayers. But there were many of us that he didn't, and most of us moved to Florida or Texas. But I went to my wife and I said, listen, we've set up our lives. We don't have to do this. And we might just listen to what he's saying and take action, And it made a huge difference for me because I was not a good fit in that environment, just politically and mindset wise. So it really caused my business to boost. But it's just an example of how 10 years ago, I started that process, that wheel rolling so that if I ever needed to, I could take action. Right. And so I just thought that was an example to throw in. Jaden, I've been doing a lot of talking. So bring us home on this concept of agency, control, and freedom.
Yeah. As you're talking there, I want to reiterate the financial literacy, right? The reason that you in 2020 could make that decision of, what, we're ready, we're in a place where we can leave New Jersey and go to Florida. It was because, like you said, 10 years earlier, you made that decision to come back and say, okay, what do we need to change? What do we need to do with our finances? Because I've heard you talk in the past, right? Where back when you were in your submarine days, you've told stories of being on that submarine and you're out there underwater and you have no idea what's happening with your money. You come back and you've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases because markets change, things change. Perfect example of there's no control there, right? And so it was this shift 10 years ago for you of, okay, now we need to take control. And you did that. And so fast forward to 2020 and here we are. So that control, that agency makes all the difference. And we have that ability here in the United States, right? That is something that we have that right and that ability to enact for ourselves. Therefore, we just have to take the initiative, right? We just have to go after it.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, that concludes our conversation and our course on agency and control. How do you achieve those things? That's going to follow on recommendations on how to do each of the investments, how to set up your family's financial foundation, and then all of the investments that stack upon that to be more like a bulletproof process that will last for generations. We look forward to it. Thanks, Jaden, for joining me.
All right. Thanks so much, Gary.